Okay, hit record. Oh, there you go.
Yep, I'm about to. There we go. All right, everybody. Well, welcome to 3 Up, 3 Down, season 4, I think, episode 2. We're talking about umpires interference today. First and foremost, as always, we appreciate everybody jumping on the call with us from wherever you are. We see you out there again, Australia. We appreciate you hanging out with us early this morning. A couple of announcements. Recapping last week, we discussed rules changes for 2021. Those are located in the rule book. If you have the app, I would highly encourage you to download that Little League rulebook app located right there. There's also a webinar on the front page of each rule book, whether that's the baseball, the softball, or the Challenger rule book, where you can go in and you can see a webinar that Dan Velt and Nick Caringi put on for us, just kind of going through the why of the rules changes that were issued. Also, we just want to make sure, as far as announcements go, that everybody's getting signed up for the virtual rules clinics being put on by Tom Rawlings and the guys over at Little League. You can sign up for those via the Umpire Registry. Just make sure that those, I believe, Stu referenced last week that those are on Sunday nights. So make sure that you're signing up. If you're interested in those, you're signing up before. WebEx won't allow you to join if you sign up the same day. So keep that in mind there. And season 4 is all about rules, polling data from you guys as far as things that you guys want to learn and get out of 3 Up, 3 Down. Says you guys want to learn about the rules. So this entire season is dedicated to knowledge of the rules and continuing to get better from a rules standpoint, covering the four big ones: interference, obstruction, appeals, and awards. And that's kind of where we're starting today. We're knocking out today, and we're going to cover umpires interference. So we'll have different categories, different video clips, some written scenarios and stuff to cover as we get into everything. We'll allow for some discussion. If we are continuing to move on and you have a question or anything like that, please feel free to utilize the chat option. We've noticed over the last couple of weeks that's a really, really good way to communicate to us so that we can kind of see anything. Seth, you got anything you want to add? Cool. Is Tom?
Nope, let's roll.
Cool. All right, cool. We're gonna dive right in. So give me just a second here, and I'm going to be sharing my screen, but we're gonna cover the 2 categories, if you will, of umpire interference. Just a second. Sorry, guys. So we have the 2 categories of umpire interference would be preventing the catcher's throw and issues with a batted ball. So let's get this bad boy loaded up. There we go. All right, so we can see there that preventing a catcher's throw, if an umpire hinders, impedes, or prevents a catcher's throw attempting to retire a runner, that's one of our categories. And the other category is if a fair batted ball touches an umpire before passing a fielder other than the pitcher. With the approved ruling, we have that only the plate umpire can interfere with the catcher. This can only occur on a cleanly caught ball or pitch ball that does not cause the catcher to move from his or her position. Does that make sense? We want to make sure that it's a clean throw, a clean pitch, and that it's not like a wild pitch or anything in the dirt or causing the catcher to move from his natural position. And then if the catcher errs on the ball, the umpire is considered at that point part of the field, and we would have no interference. That makes sense? It's pretty cut and dry for everybody. Anybody have any questions? Seth, you want anything to add there?
Nope, I got nothing. It's pretty simple. I think we should, if nobody else has any questions, I think we should probably just go ahead and dive into film and scenarios.
Cool. Let's see here. Sorry, guys. All right. Everybody still see the screen?
We can.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So we're going to dive in here. We have category 1. as the umpire interference on a catcher's throw, attempting to retire a runner. So as we can see there, the catcher hits the umpire in the mask on the back throw. I'm going to play it back for you guys again in fast motion. We can see it. Slow it down again. There we go. Right there. Hand to clean to the head right there. And the appropriate ruling there would be to call time. And you can see Lazzy is there saying umpire's interference on the throw, pretty cut and dry. Is that making sense for everybody? Does anybody have any questions about how that works, how that operates, how to execute that rule or that mechanic or anything like that? No, all good? Okay. Well, our second category that we had talked about is on a fair ball. Umpire's interference on a batted ball other than a pitcher. So we're going to go and play through this first clip right here. Category number 2, umpire's interference on a batted ball. We can see there, line drive, takes out the umpire. Tried to get out of the way, no luck there. All right, we're going to stop that. So back over here, it's important to note for us with Rule 6.08D, the batter becomes a runner is entitled to first base without liability to be put out when a fair ball touches an umpire or runner on fair territory before touching a fielder. For our approved ruling, the ball is dead. The runner or runners who are forced advance, and any runners not forced will return to their bases at the time of the pitch. If a fair ball touches an umpire after having passed a fielder other than the pitcher or having touched a fielder, including the pitcher, the ball is in play. And the pitcher is not considered a fielder for the purpose of determining whether the ball has passed a fielder or not. So does that make sense for everybody right there? This obviously would probably play a huge role for us this season, in potentially last season, when it comes to if you were operating solo or two-man mechanics where one of the umpires are positioned behind the mound to call balls and strikes. So it's incredibly important now more than ever to make sure that we understand this rule, this particular rule, and any associated awards accompanied with that. Does anybody have any questions when it comes to 608D? No? Cool.
I do have one delayed question. Sorry,
Sure.
DJ. Like the mechanic for calling, umpires interference, is it just so like you just kind of like point to your chest and you're just saying like, I don't know who the plate umpire was in that last clip who did that, but there's no official mechanic for it, correct?
So with all interference, the ball is dead. So we would want to kill it. Stu, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm just coming out time. That's interference. I'd be pointing at myself, essentially, and just being loud and verbal with it and letting people know that's interference. Umpire's interference, and then issue what you have as far as going back. That's kind of where I go. I'm getting nods from Seth as well. So that's where I would go. Keep it simple. Nothing too crazy, but making sure that people know that everybody in the field obviously needs to know what you have, and we're being as clear and as crisp as possible to get that point across.
And just remember, on interference calls that are immediate dead balls, your first thing is always going to be time. And then I'm going to point to whatever the interference is. So if it's on a runner, I'll point to that runner. If it's on me, I'm going to point to me. If on a delayed dead ball, obviously we're going to eliminate the time there and just point to wherever the interference is at. And then if we need to enforce something, we'll enforce something when the play is ended.
Yeah, and I've got two other things here to at least go ahead and point out here with regards to umpire's interference. This time it's on the catcher's ability to retire or pick off a runner. So it is, and Seth, you mentioned this, a delayed situation. First of all, the catcher, he cannot err on this. So if the ball gets away from him, bounces out of his glove or whatever, all bets are off. So as you saw in that clip, it's literally ball into the catcher's glove, he goes back, and then he makes contact with the mask. That's when we're going to have umpire's interference. If he goes to block it, for example, and he and the umpire kind of like run into each other or collide, that is not interference in that definition. So it's important to make sure that we note those two. And at the same time, even if that catcher who makes a clean catch goes to throw, hits my mask, and then fires down to second base and retires the runner, that out then will stand. Okay, so that out will stand. And then as we mentioned, we send people back. So just a couple things here to keep in mind here with regards to your interference and really diving into the rule. It's very clear what we can do. It's important not to start to try and put in our own 2 cents as what we may be able to do. And I think that'll be a big thing here as we start to see some more of these clips go ahead and play out.
Awesome. Thank you, Stu. Anything else? Any other questions? Good question, Noah. Awesome. I'm going to go back to sharing the screen, and we're going to look at a couple more video clips. All right. All right. So here we've got just a group vote, if you will. So let me see if I can play it back just so we get a little bit caught up. So we're looking, is this going to be umpire's interference, yes or no? See that played through there. Give you a replay. Okay, so what do we have here?
Base hit.
Ball.
What was that?
A base hit. Fair
Base
Fair
ball.
ball.
Absolutely.
ball.
Why would
Play
that,
on.
why would that be a fair ball?
You pass to the fielder.
Absolutely. Fielder had a play on it, past the fielder, hits the umpire. Jeff Nelson there rules that it's a fair ball as it bounded over the bag in fair territory. There we go. Took that one like a champ, if I say so myself. All right, same situation here. Is this umpire's interference, yes or no? Let's let this one play through. And I believe, well, we'll play that one again, actually. Sorry about that.
It's absolutely umpire interference.
Yeah.
And why do we have
Yes.
umpire interference here?
Hit the umpire prior to passing a fielder other than the pitcher.
Sure.
Yeah, hey, I want to bring one thing up on that clip, guys.
Sure.
It is that the ball in the proximity to the pitcher there is super close. Okay, so you can kind of draw an A and B scenario from that clip. In our version of it that we just had, the ball did not touch the pitcher, right, and then hits the umpire. If that ball touches that pitcher's glove and then hits us, all bets are off. We've got nothing, right? Because as we go back to the rule, if the pitcher touches the ball, that eliminates umpire interference, right? So be very careful when using your eyes on that, because again, it's super close there. Just know that we can have it either way, depending on if the pitcher touches the ball or not.
Good point. Let's see. I think we have one or two more. We'll get to, and then we've got some.
One quick thing as you're pulling this up too, DJ, Matt asked in the chat whether or not the ball had touched the fielder. And I think it's really important here in that rule and in the text of the slide that DJ and Seth had been sharing. It is important to note that we consider the pitcher a fielder if he does one of two things. Number one, comes down and makes contact with the ball. So to Matt's point, if there was contact made, and Seth, you made this point as well, and then it strikes the umpire, we have nothing. Okay, and you just literally signal, hey, that's nothing with a safe call. But at the same time, if the pitcher kind of comes down and just stabs at it as he did in that clip, that's not necessarily an attempted play. All right, and for that purpose, then we would have umpires interference. Then, so the only time we are not going to have umpires interference on that play is obviously if the pitcher would have touched the baseball or he egregiously errs on a play. Okay, on coming off the hill and making a play.
All right, dive in here. Couple more clips. Would this be considered umpire's interference? We got a pickoff attempt at second base. I'll play that back for us one more time here. This was in the World Series last year.
Absolutely not.
That's just an
Ball
owie.
out.
And why do we have a no there? I heard the strong absolutely there, Tony.
It's only on a thrown ball. It's only the plate umpire that can interfere on the catcher.
Absolutely. All right, another one here.
Nope, and same reasoning.
Kind of the same thing. Yep, absolutely. This play continues to develop a little bit. We're actually going to play it out and just kind of show some important things here. All right, everybody kind of see we've got it frozen.
Obstruction.
Yep, absolutely. Bob Davidson turns right around, gets that obstruction as well. So that just goes to show the importance to making sure that we're not giving up on the play, whether it hurts, whether we're upset at ourselves, whatever the case may be. We need to make sure that we're doing everything we can to stay in it. Especially when it's a live ball situation like that. We have to be aware of everything going on around us. So definitely important stuff to keep in mind. Does anybody have any questions about those specific video clips that we've shown? Any maybe agreements, disagreements, anything anybody wants to point out? We have a couple written scenarios as well. I'm going to let Seth run through those.
I just wanted to comment, the last one was another reminder of the importance of keeping your eyes and chest to the ball.
Sure. Yeah.
Not turning
absolutely.
on that.
Yes.
Proper timing, proper use of eyes, all of those different keys. And as you mentioned, chest to ball is huge, making sure that we're staying in it and doing those things. So Seth, go ahead and get ready. I'm going to get back to sharing the screen, and we'll let you go over these written scenarios.
One more.
So yeah, just a comment on that last one. Proper use of eyes is going to be a major theme this year with regards to this kind of initiative that we're doing. And the end of that clip is a wonderful testament as to why, because if he is 1 second later on turning around and seeing that runner try to advance to third, he misses that obstruction and he's going to get chewed for it. So remember, like DJ said, no matter how bad it hurts, always stay with the play because you never know what's going to happen next.
Absolutely. All right. There you go, Seth.
I came up with a couple written scenarios to kind of piggyback off like the same we did last week. So, and I think these are two pretty uncommon scenarios, but we also have to know what to do if these pop up, right? So our first scenario is we have no outs and nobody on base. The batter is going to hit a ground ball to the shortstop, and the fielder is going to make a wild throw, and the batter runner is going to attempt to advance to second base on the wild throw there. He's going to collide with the base umpire, who's gotten his 90-degree angle to take the throw, and he's going to fall to the ground. First baseman's going to go retrieve the ball and tag the batter runner who's still laying on the ground. What's our ruling here, guys?
Runner out.
Out.
Bad umpire, no hot dog.
Yep, absolutely.
That too.
So yeah, our ruling here is we have nothing, because remember, umpire interference can only occur on a catcher throwing the ball, and that's on the plate umpire, or a batted ball that is going to hit us before it passes the fielder. In this scenario, and this one again kind of goes back to proper use of eyes. We can link this back to proper use of eyes, because if our base umpire watched that shortstop make a true or untrue throw, which in this case it was an untrue throw, they would have been able to anticipate that the runner might try to advance, and then they could have stepped out of the way and not been an obstacle for the runner to hit. So again, going back to that proper use of eyes thing, this is another wonderful example that I couldn't find any film on, unfortunately. But yeah, just remember, we don't have any interference there, and that one's on us. So you'll probably have a conversation with the coach on that one if that happens, and you're just gonna have to eat it and say, "Yep, I goofed on that one. That one's on me." Let's go to number 2 here. So now we have an umpire working a game by themselves that's elected to call balls and strikes from behind the mound. In the third inning, with A, nobody on and no outs, or B, 1 out and a runner on third, a sharp line drive hits the umpire before passing a fielder. Second baseman takes advantage of the ball now coming right to them and retires the batter runner at first base. What do we have for A?
You have umpire interference. Batter runner gets first.
That is correct. Yep, because at this point we are in fair territory, and we're subject to the exact same areas that a base umpire on the inside would be at that point. And then for B, what do we have?
Yeah, the same thing except runner at first gets second, batter runner gets first.
Yeah. So again, the only difference between A and B there was that with B we had a runner starting on.
Oh, runner on third. I'm sorry, not on
Yeah.
runner on first.
Yeah, I got you.
Runner at third stays at third.
Yep. So that's really the only difference. And remember, because it's a dead ball, the only time the runners are going to advance is if they are forced. In this scenario, we did not have somebody forced to advance, therefore we're going to place them back. Now, if we had a runner on first in that scenario, and then the same thing happens, now all of a sudden we're going to put that runner that started on first to second base because the batter runner is going to be entitled to first base.
Any questions there, guys, on these scenarios?
One quick addition here, just to make sure everybody's clear with, because inevitably, whether you're learning it or you've got people that are chiming in for you too, is just to realize that in very rare instances will you ever actually have an out for umpire's interference. Okay, so think about it. If you get struck in the middle of the field, there's no out there. The batter runner is going to get first base, and everybody can move up if forced. Otherwise, they return back. The catcher, when we interfere with his or her throwing ability on something that he does not err from or something that does not take them from their position, we're not necessarily going to call that runner out unless the out comes about. Okay, so there is no real penalty for interference other than just kind of resetting the play. All right. Secondly here, and I think we've touched base on this one, the proper use of eyes is important with regards to umpire's interference, and will be also true as we talk about next week in interference with proper use of eyes. Knowing whether or not the ball has passed the fielder, if it's touched the pitcher as we saw beforehand, those different situations, like our eyes should be so dialed into these plays that we're able to narrate what exactly happens. And if that's not the case, then we're not using our eyes properly. So our timing, the ways that we perceive these things, the information we take in, we've got to be really dialed in on proper use of eyes on many things aside from timing and tracking, ball strike, fair foul, safe out, but here with regards to interference as well. And I think this umpire interference segment is so worthwhile here this year in 2021 as we get ready, because we're going to have some funky alignments, as we've already mentioned here with the examples of umpires being past the mound. So I think those are really, really good points. I thought DJ and Seth have done a fantastic job of going through those two major categories. One category of interference here is when an umpire hinders, impedes, or prevents a catcher's throw from attempting to retire a runner, or a fair ball touching an umpire before passing the fielder. And again, proper use of eyes leads to proper timing, which allows then us to look and do our job very, very professionally and in the correct manner.
Yeah, one thing to build off what Stu just said early on in that, where it's very rare that you're going to get an out with umpire interference. This is one of those things where, remember, if we have a scenario where we have interfered with the catcher and they retire the runner they're attempting to retire, we're actually not enforcing umpire interference. The play is just, we're essentially ignoring it, just like we would have catcher's interference on a batter, which we're going to get to later. But if something happens that could negate that penalty, whatever it may be, we're actually not enforcing it if we're going to let the out stand. And then vice versa on the flip side of that, if we are going to enforce something, we are never going to have an umpire interference. It just can't happen if you're enforcing the umpire interference. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but I do believe that's exactly it.
Works for me.
Couple things that I got, and then I'll turn it back to DJ and Seth to wrap things up. In the chat, if you take a look, I dropped a PDF, and I sent this in earlier on in the week to kind of show people, or at least give us an idea of some strategies to go ahead and attack the rule book. Because while I do think reading the rule book start to end has its value, I think it's also really important for us to, number one, as we study the rule book ourselves, and then secondly, start to develop a bunch of clinics in the future for rules clinics as leaders, to think about ways in which we can more engagingly and more effectively organize and categorize the rule book. Gary Groutman's on the call here with us out of the West. Gary led the Rule 2.0 section back on Sunday evening with regards to the Little League Virtual Umpire Clinic, and did a fantastic job of taking us through Rule 2 in specific categories. And I think those categories allow us then to make connections and then ultimately see the differences in the ways in which we go ahead and apply rule, as well as the similarities there too. So I've listed some tips there. I think there's 6 learning tips, 6 learning strategies that are for you there too, that go beyond just looking and just reading the rules. And yes, reading the rules is a necessary piece of this, but so too then is challenge your brain to think about a different set of context here too. And again, that's exactly what we are looking at doing, not only in this rule study, but ultimately in our rule study here leading into in the future. Gary, I see a message that you sent to me here. When we say that if an out is recorded, the umpire interference is disregarded, that is not completely true. Others runner must return. Exactly right. So we're not going to advance those. That's a great point, Gary. Thanks for bringing that one out. So, let's say that you've got runners at first and third, and they try and pick off the runner at second base on that steal play. Yes, we're going to call time on that one. It'll be umpire's interference. If we have it, we send the runner back. But let's say that runner gets retired. Again, we'll go ahead and kill that one and then send that runner back. That's a great point, Gary. Thanks for adding that clarification in there. So
Cool.
What else? Yeah, go ahead, DJ.
I was just going to say, so if you didn't see Stu drop that tips for mastering the rules, is really good strategies for mastering and studying the rule book. That's in our chat right now. Stu, are you going to send that out as like your part of your recap email that you typically do?
Yeah, I'll also put that one in there. I think I sent about a couple different documents. I sent Gerard's document out earlier this week, along with a couple other ones too with links to it. But I'll definitely make sure that I go ahead and put this one in as well. And again, it's not only to try and help you individually read the rule book, but as you see, there will also be some strategies in there that are more kind of pedagogical, educational in nature, I guess you could say, to help you think about ways in which you are structuring your rules instruction and your rules clinics for local leagues and districts and things like that. So don't think that one just only applies to your own individual study of the rules. And while you'll definitely get some stuff out to help you in your individual study of rules, when you're leading group rule settings or clinics, hopefully that'll start to challenge the ways in which we put those together too.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we're going to bring it down to a close. Just a quick reminder here. Next Friday, March 5th, we'll be back here at 12:30. We're going to be breaking down more topics at interference. We've made it out of umpire interference. Next week, we'll be going over interference involving the batter, catcher, batter runner, stuff like that. So that'll be good. Another reminder about those Little League virtual rules clinics. Make sure you're signing up for those as well. Again, those are Sunday nights. Get signed up through the umpire registry and study those tips. Other than that, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and hanging out with Seth, Stu, and myself. It's been a good time. We're gonna hang out like always here after we shut down the recording and chat about some stuff if anybody needs. So thank you guys. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, fellas.